I can't go public with what I saw in the records.
I see. And, well, now, do you know who was in the operating room at the time that Laura passed away?
From my conversation with the doctor, I would have to say it was only the doctor. He was the only present during the abortion, and I don't know if he left her. The DA is saying unattended. So I find it hard to believe that a man that's been practicing medicine that long could have a patient die in front of him and not notice. So, you know, maybe by unattended, the DA means that he did leave the room. That'll probably have to come out later on.
Did they have any, for instance, hand holders, any anesthesiologists or registered nurses?
No, no anesthesiologists, no registered nurse. I know there was a receptionist who went home before my daughter went in to have her abortion, and that just left one other woman who was a designated hand holder. She's not any medical personnel at all.
I see. Interesting. And what has happened since then? Have you been jumping through hoops to find out the cause of Laura's death?
Well, everything takes so slow, Brendan. The autopsy normally takes 3 months or longer. We have gotten the results back, and now they want a second opinion, so we're waiting for that second opinion from an anesthesiologist outside of the Boston Medical Examiner's office, so it all just takes time.
I see. And do you feel like you're being stonewalled by anybody? For instance, either the abortionist?
Well, of course, the abortionist, like I said, I had to fight for the records, and they're still under secrecy, even though I have a copy. So I would say if there's any stonewalling, it would have to come from him. The DA's been very helpful, but he too has to wait for the medical examiner's report before he can do anything also. But he's kept me in contact and updated, and also kept in touch
and the medical
with
examiner?
the medical examiner.
Has he been cooperative?
They have been wonderful also.
The
yes.
medical examiner?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you think medical doctors who do abortions are being treated differently from other medical doctors who must be accountable for every action involving a patient?
Well, I don't have much experience except with what I'm going through right now, but I was shocked and horrified at what I do know about this doctor's office, that he's doing general anesthesia by himself with no anesthesiologist. I actually went to a veterinary clinic to see what kind of regulations they had, and I determined my daughter would have been in better hands had she gone to the vet to have her abortion, that our dogs and cats are safer than our children, and I am appalled at what's allowed to go on.
I see. Now, what is the name of his office?
Women's Health Center, 68 Camp Street, Hyannis, Massachusetts.
And but it's not a clinic per se.
No, if it was a clinic, it would be regulated by the Department of Public Health. It's registered as an office,
just
a
as
doctor's
a doctor's office. That's
yes.
it. Okay. And now, why you had mentioned to me about the Cape Cod Times? They tracked you down. You had come up.
Yeah, they found me. They found me. I was only in town 2 days, and I got a phone call from at my sister's house. No one knew where I was, and I don't know how they found me, but they initiated an interview, and I asked them why they wanted to interview me, because of the nature of my daughter's death. I agreed to it because I feel if my daughter had problems, I'm sure other girls did too, and I wanted it out. They interviewed me for a couple hours, and then they never printed the article. Weeks went by, and they told me they weren't going to print it, and I was very upset.
So it took roughly 5 weeks before they printed Laura's article. Why did they wait so long, do you think?
They told me it was fear of liability, but I don't know if that's true, because they could have certainly printed the nature of my daughter's death without accusing anyone of killing her. I mean, if my daughter died in a car accident or fell off a bike or drowned, her death would be in the paper the next day. My daughter's death was news, and they said they would not print it without corroboration. Well, that meant waiting for the autopsy report that still 3 months later they still don't have. So, you know, I think they really dropped the ball there. My daughter's death traveled around the country on the alternative news sources before it was ever in the Cape Cod Times.
Wow. And basically, of course, you had mentioned to me earlier that reporters report it as it happens, live
That's right.
action.
News is news, not 3 months ago.
Not 3 months ago.
They have an obligation to the public.
Well, how did the editor, for instance, of the Cape Cod Times, I saw some of he wrote editorials himself, and he begrudgingly explained his apparent intransigence of not printing it right away.
Yes,
he
stated in the editorial he wanted to get the facts right before he printed it, but it doesn't take anyone more than 5 weeks to get the facts on my daughter's death. I don't buy that.
I see. I noticed the Cape Cod Times finally printed this story, and beside it they had statistics saying or inferring that deaths during the abortion procedure are rare. Why do you think the Cape Cod Times did that?
To be fair and balanced, I'm sure they wanted to know what. But actually, those statistics.
That's stealing a Fox News line, but go ahead. What did you say?
Yes, I don't think those statistics are real or are honest with the research I've done.
Well, now you've talked to someone we've had on this show, Mark Crutcher. I think he's down in Denton, Texas, or Waco, Texas.
Yes.
And he's with Life Dynamics, and he follows these types of situations closely. What has Mark told you about all this? As far as women dying on the abortion table or in the abortion office?
It happens a lot more than it's reported. The statistics, there's only been approximately 400 deaths reported since Roe v. Wade, but there's actually been a lot more. There is no criteria. There's several states that don't even report abortions deaths, so the statistics are skewed.
Right, and I know that California doesn't, and
yes,
I think
one
New
of our largest states.
West Virginia. And now Mark had mentioned to me on the show that a lot of times what they do is the person will be operated on, there'll be an abortion, and a lot of times the women bleed to death, and they get an ambulance and they race them over to the local hospital so that they can...
That's right, and if they die in the hospital, they die from hemorrhage, and their death is not even reported back to the clinic, let alone as an abortion death to whoever they report those to.
And what percentage of deaths on the abortion table are due to anesthesiology? Did Mark Crutcher know?
I heard it's about 34% of deaths on the during abortion are related to anesthesia.
Related to anesthesia. I see. Well, what are some of the things that you'd like to say regarding...
I guess I refuse to let Laura's death be swept under the rug, and I would like people to come forward if they've been hurt in an abortion clinic, or if a loved one has been killed in an abortion clinic, that they would come forward with that information.
I see. Well, you've certainly shown a great deal of courage today to come on the show and tell your story, and tell a story that doesn't really get out there in the mainstream media. That's one reason why we do this show, is so that people like yourselves, your voice can be heard. Thank you very much. Now, Eileen, if folks wanted to get in contact with you, do you have a way to get... I
have an email address, Eileen@smith.net. It's EILEEN @smith, SMITH.net.
Eileen?
I would love to hear from them,
Eileen
if anyone wants to come forward.
Eileen@smith.net, okay.
Yes.
Well, also, if you'd like to get involved in MCFL in the future, you can, but you can also contact us at 617-242-4199 or masscitizensforlife.org, and also check out our website, lifematterstv.org. Those are important things. Just one of the other things, did the person that brought Laura to the abortion clinic, had she had an abortion also?
Well, I really wouldn't want to speak about her personal information, but obviously she didn't have a problem bringing my daughter to the clinic. And I spoke to her after Laura died, and she's obviously devastated. She's a good friend of Laura's, and she said she would never do that again.
Mm-hmm. I see. Well, finally, we hope you'll inform others about our show and understand that there are people such as Mrs. Smith who exhibit great courage by coming on the show today, and hopefully that Laura's death won't be in vain due to your efforts, which we applaud.
And yours too.
Well, thank you so
Brendan.
much. Finally, we'll hope you'll inform others about our show. We feel Life Matters. We feel that if people do know the truth, they'll ultimately change their hearts and minds to true love and kindness for the unborn, the sick and the infirm, the elderly, and all humanity. Thanks for watching. I'm Brendan O'Connell, your friend for life.